South Oil.
Good morning. Today is the day and time is scheduled for sentencing. I do just want to remind all the parties that are in the courtroom that are here for the sentencing that you must observe decorum or you will be removed from the courtroom. Sir, please pull your pants up. Thank you. AP Kleinfeld, as the court indicated, I said that I was willing to turn on live stream for purposes of family members who are not allowed in the courthouse to observe the proceedings because we have had some issues with this particular case. There's been some assaultive behavior that's been displayed, and there were at least three young men that are associated with the deceased in this case that the court had to sign in order to prevent from coming back to the courthouse. So I do have a YouTube live streaming so that everyone can observe what's going on. I do also want to place on the record this morning that someone signed in. I don't know if it's associated with the deceased family or not. Someone did sign into my YouTube this morning, well, signed into my Zoom meeting room this morning, requesting a link. The court advised that I don't live stream, generally speaking. I'm doing so in this particular case because of some of the assaultive behavior that's occurred and some of the threats that have occurred. So I'm live streaming so that people can observe. My courtroom is open to the public and anyone is free to come and observe. But this morning someone signed in, and when I advised them of such, they proceeded to call my courtroom at least 10 times this morning to threaten the court. I don't know if that's someone that's associated with the deceased family again, but I've never had anything like that happen before. And I do think, quite frankly, that it is associated with this case. So everyone that's in the courtroom today, please behave yourself or you will be asked to leave. I understand that the father of the deceased is here. He's been asked to step out of the courtroom. I will allow him to address the court if he can maintain his composure at such point that that the court deems it appropriate. If I have to ask him to leave, I will. I want everybody who's here to be able to participate in the proceedings, but I just cannot have people acting like they are outside. Are we clear?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So have the attorneys had an opportunity to review the pre-sentence investigation report?
Yes, Judge.
Yes.
Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions from the people?
Judge, I do believe.
To the body of the report?
Body of the report, no.
Thank you. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to the body of the report from defense?
Judge, with the body of the.
To the body of the report. I'm not talking about the guidelines.
I'm not talking about them either, Judge.
Okay, so where are we starting?
The jail credit days.
How many should he have?
278, Judge. My client has been on house arrest since the beginning of this.
You don't get credit for house arrest, counsel.
Hey, we're not gonna do that. No talking over here while the court is in session, please.
You don't get credit for house arrest. You've been practicing in this field long enough to know that, counsel. I know that. Are there any other additions, corrections, or deletions to the body of the report?
No, Judge.
Thank you. As to the guidelines, are the guidelines scored correctly?
Judge, the people that believe OB4 should be actually scored at 10.
Okay, let's start with the PRVs. Are the PRVs scored correctly?
Yes.
Okay, and defense agrees that the PRVs are scored correctly?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, and that's to the offense variables. Is OB1 scored correctly?
Yes.
Defense?
Yes, Judge.
OB2 is scored at 5. Is that scored correctly?
Yes.
Defense?
Yes, Judge.
OB3 is scored at 25. Is that scored correctly?
Yes.
Yes, Judge.
OB4, the court. Okay, OB4 you're asking for?
Judge, I believe that should be scored at 10. And I believe perhaps maybe the court would like to make a determination about that after hearing.
So you're talking about OB5 then, because OB4 is a psychological injury to a victim. So
I'm
you're asking
sorry.
the court to hold OB5 in advance until after I hear from the family of the deceased?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay,
You're correct, it is 5.
all right, so the court will do that. Are there any other changes to the offense variables
Not from the people.
from defense?
Yes, Judge. Judge, we would ask that OB9 be scored at 0, not 10. Fewer than 2 would be 2 and below, is my understanding of that.
Judge,
No, OB9 says 2 to 9 victims. In this case, there was there was another young lady and there was a charge of assault with intent to murder, if I'm not correct, that was dismissed and exchanged. But ma'am, don't raise your hand. was dismissed in
Step out,
exchange for
step
your
out.
client pleading,
Step out, go.
Go now.
correct?
Yes, Judge.
Where you going
Okay,
back?
so OB nine,
Don't put your phone out of it.
OB nine is scored correctly based on the court's reading of its sentencing guideline.
Okay, Judge, we would ask that OB 12 also be scored at 1.
And so there's only one other offense
Contemporaneous felonious criminal.
that's being dismissed.
Yes.
AP Klein,
That's correct, Your Honor.
what would change OB 12 to 1? Are there any additional changes to the offense variables?
None from the defense.
Not from the people.
Okay, Kleinfeld, you've indicated that there are 2 members of the family that wish to address the court.
Yes.
Okay, at this time, the first party who wishes to address the court may enter the jury box. Please follow the direction of the deputy. Who's going to speak first?
It's for
Put both of them out.
the father's, Mr. Johnson. who's in the hallway.
Well, let's bring the father in and let's see if we can do this. Sir, no, right there, that fourth chair. Thank you, sir. How are you doing today? It's difficult. It's difficult, but I am going to ask you to please just follow the court's direction with regard to this, okay? I want you to have an opportunity to be heard, sir. I really do. And my condolences to your family, honestly. I want you to state your first and last name for the record, spelling both. Just one moment, because I have some more instruction for you. When you're ready to speak, you must address the court. If you start to address the defendant, sir, I'm going to have to stop you, okay?
Okay.
And again, I want to give you an opportunity to be heard. All right, you'll be able to do that for me? Okay, thank you. State your first and last name for the record, spelling both.
First name, Lamont Verdell, Lamont, V as in Victor, Erdell.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, Your Honor, I would like to let you know that the defendant killed my son. I heard every shot at 2 a.m. at his house. Defendant had no permission to be there at his house. He had no permission to do anything there. He took it upon himself. For whatever reason, he was mad at the young lady, which he shot 5 times. He shot the car probably 13 times. He shot my son in the side of the head and then initially went back and shot him again in the front of his forehead to say 2 to make sure you're dead. My son, LaMarco Chris Jones Verdell, had 2 jobs. He had a 22 Charger. He had an Impala, 06 Impala, 15 Impala. And he bought his own house through Land Bank, put that house together. He worked 2 jobs, Your Honor. He told me, Daddy, I ain't never going to jail. I'd rather work 2 jobs because that's the best thing to do. My other son that banned from court, Levante, he's in law school. He in law school at Ypsilanti. Brandon and Dewan, they both work. All of them work. All my sons work. I put them up to working. I was a criminal, so I tried to keep them from that. My son, LaMarco, he has kids. His kids come to the house now. You know what I have to do? When I open the door and they go in, the baby's running in, talk about hide and go seek Daddy. Daddy ain't here. All we got is a picture. I got to go look at dirt to say, Marco, is you still around? Marco, are you, what? There was nothing I could do. I heard the gunshots. My son was at home. He told the girl to bring his car because he had to go to work at Amazon. He picked up an extra shift at Amazon, bring him his car. It was Taya's birthday. They all were at a club, drinking, popping Percocets, smoking weed. After he shot her multiple times, he decides, oh, I better take her to the hospital so I can make up my excuse. But he tried to throw her out the car when she passed out. The only reason I knew it was there is because of the simple fact I know her voice. I heard her screaming. What I thought was someone was trying to carjack my son for the charger because it was her birthday and they had went out. So I thought that's what that was. But I come to find out, my son called me at 11 o'clock and said, no, Dad, I let Taya use the car because I got an extra shift at Amazon. Christmas coming up. I got to buy the babies to stay stuck. So I'm like, okay, dude, cool. Next thing I know, I fall asleep, me and his mom. I get up, and the next thing I know, 2 a.m., we hear all these shots. Pow, 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 pow. Like somebody got a switch on a handgun. The handgun probably had a switch on it because they did not stop. And they shot out every single bullet in that gun. I ran around there and I saw my son. I saw his car lights on. I'm telling his mom to call him on the phone. I get to his house because my house is here. His house is, the backyards almost meet to each other. He stays on the main street and I stay on the side street. So our backyards is like right there. So I hear everything. And he done shot my son and killed him. I'm first on the scene to find my son shot dead, shot in the head. I'm on the phone with 911. They trying to tell me to revive him and see if I can revive him, but no life. His life is gone. Then I have to call his mom, come around. She comes around and all she can do is hold his hand because he got a big ass hole in his head.
Sir,
I'm sorry.
Okay.
But he got a hole in his head and he got a hole in his head in the front. It was nothing like, he put his arm up like this. One of the bullets went through his arm and hit him in the head. He snuck up behind them because Taya was inside of the car getting, she had bought him some food back and she was reaching inside the car. Her back was turned when he ran up and shot him. He shot my son first. My son said nothing to him, did nothing to him. Absolutely nothing. So he killed my son for no reason. And then he comes in here and act like he ain't did nothing else. He need to tell you about the multiple times that he's pulled guns on them, on other people before. I've heard all of this, that he's pulled the guns. When he got stopped by the police and they caught him, he had 2 guns on him and 4 clips. What were you finna do? That's on January the 19th. I buried my son on January the 7th. Then I'm still dealing with this because that was my baby boy. I'm still dealing with this and he was a good guy. So I'm questioning God, why did you let this happen to him? Because I'm not in perfect health, but my son was my backbone. He come every day. Dad, you all right? Dad, you doing this? Dad, we got another house. He go to that house and do work, him and my other sons. Not no running the street, drug dealers, robbing people, none of that. He just was a silly little boy who worked 2 jobs. And this man took his life. And now he wants you to be lenient on him. My son can't come back in 20 years. He can't come back in 40 years. But he wants to do a 20-year bit or a 10-year bit. I asked the prosecution to give him 40 years to life. There's no reason. If he did it once, Your Honor, I'm going to tell you what I know about criminals. If they do it once, they'll do it again. And the second time they do it, won't be no hesitation. So we don't know who else he done something to out there. And he running around out here on bond on a tether. Got this girl scared that he gonna come and shoot her because she a witness. Because she survived. So he knew she was a witness. His own father told me, kill the girl. Came out of his father's mouth. But they got a video on it. They told me that on September the 6th, right outside the courthouse. Kill the girl. She is the problem. No, your son was the problem. The girl didn't put a gun in his hand, and she didn't say pull the trigger, and she didn't ask you for no help or anything else against LaMarco. And LaMarco wasn't doing anything. He got his car from her, she brought him food, and he chased her to the house. Because he was mad because he couldn't have her that night. So what do he do? Shoot my son in the head twice and shoot her 5 times.
Mr. Verdale, again, I'm sorry for your loss and condolences to your family. I sincerely mean that. And, my hope for your family is that you all will be able to heal. You're not going to forget your son. I know that you're not. And as far as grief is concerned, it doesn't go away, but over time, you'll be able to think about your son and you'll be able to smile and you'll be able to laugh about the person that he is. And it's probably going to take some time. Please don't lose your faith. Don't lose your faith in God.
I'm not losing faith in God. I'm
but-
losing my
but-
faith in the
but
justice system.
I can appreciate that as well, because sometimes it doesn't seem fair. I can appreciate that as well, but you said to this court that you're questioning and you're losing faith. Job was tested. He was tested.
You know what
Hold on
Exodus
to-
says though, right?
Excuse
An
me?
eye for an eye. If you kill your son,
Well, we
You kill that
but we
person.
can't do that. We're not living in biblical times.
oh, but you just quoted that. to me.
Okay, you know what, Mr. Verdale, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Have a seat. Who's gonna speak next?
Ms. Smith, I believe she's outside.
Okay, well, let's have Ms. Smith coming in. Ma'am, look at me. Please state your first and last name for the record, spelling both. When you're ready to speak, you may address the court as to how this has impacted you. Make any statements that you're going to make directly to the court. You may not speak directly to the defendant. If you begin to speak with the defendant, I will cut you off, okay? Ms. Smith?
It's Taylor Smith. You said spell it.
Yes, spell your first and last name.
Last name Smith, SMITH. I don't. How I was affected.
Okay, Kleinfeld, did you speak with the victim, did the victim advocate speak?
And address the court.
I did
With
speak.
with regard to what a victim impact statement is?
I spoke for her briefly before court. If I may, just for a moment.
Please.
Thank you.
I was shot on my birthday and my boyfriend was killed. I was in the hospital for a whole week. after that, I didn't get to go to funerals. I didn't get to be at home with my kids. I was in a wheelchair. I was crying every day, and I couldn't go nowhere. I was staying in a box, like at my grandma's house in her room. Malik tried to act like he didn't do it on purpose, and he tried to act like he was still cool or whatever, because after he shot me, he sent me a message and said, let me know if you need anything. Like it didn't mean nothing to him. Like he just like it was just a regular night for him. Like, no. I still got a bullet in my chest. All the bones broken in my leg. Walking weird. It took a whole man.
Ma'am, address the court.
Malik took a man from his kids and his family. I don't have like nothing more to say.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
I hope you know.
Thank you. Michael, is there anything that you wish to say to the court on behalf of the people prior to the court imposing sentence?
Judge, if I may address OB 5,
Yes.
I believe that actually should be scored at 15. You just heard from the family members. Ms. Smith said she was crying every day. Mr. Johnson explained the struggle with faith and everything he's been going through since. I think there's clearly enough there to score that.
Defense as to scoring OB 5 at 15. Counseling is not required.
Okay, Judge, we have no objection to that.
OB 5 will be scored at 15. And then the offense variable should come to 106. You agree, counsel?
Yes.
We're adjusting it to, yes, Judge.
Okay, because OB 12 was scored at 1
Correct.
instead of 5.
Correct.
Just one moment. And that changes the guidelines. Front to 162 to 270.
That's correct, Judge.
Does defense agree?
Yes, Judge.
Anything further on behalf of the people?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
On behalf of defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Southall is a young man who has gone through something very traumatic. He has expressed how he wished things could have gone differently. But he does look forward to, once he's out, being able to be a productive and outstanding member of society to the best of his ability. He has strong support, and he will rely on that during this time.
Mr. Southall, is there anything that you wish to say to the court?
Yes, I was going to say. I understand that choices have consequences, and I'm ready to take responsibilities for my actions. I did not intend to take LaMarco's life that night. I am deeply sorry for causing LaMarco's death.
I want to apologize to LaMarco's family and my family for the pain that I have caused throughout this year. Going forward, I will make the effort to improve the conditions and the quality of everyone's life and the environment or community that I am in.
I will also indicate for the record that it did receive a letter from a Virginia Pennyman on behalf of Mr. Southall. The court has also reviewed that and will take that into account as it relates to sentencing. However, there is a sentence agreement with the people because there was a plea entered in this case. Mr. Southall, probably the first step in terms of taking responsibility is what you did, and that's accepting the plea offer from the people and entering a plea before this court. Based upon the information that the court has before, which includes a review of the pre-sentence investigation report, the victim impact statements that have been made here on the record today, as well as the letter that the court has received on your behalf, the court will abide by the sentence agreement that you've entered into with the people. You'll be sentenced to no less than 17 years and no more than 40 years in the Michigan Department of Corrections for count 1, which is the homicide, murder in the second degree. You will receive 4 days jail credit, which will be applied to the 2 years for the felony firearm. You must serve the 2 years on the felony firearm preceding and consecutive to any term of years on the second degree of murder charge. You must pay a crime victim assessment in the amount of $130. You must also pay state costs in the amount of $136. Court is going to waive the $1,300 in court costs as the defendant is being sentenced to a term of years in the Michigan Department of Corrections. A.P.A. Kleinfeld, is there restitution? Are there unpaid medical bills? Are there expenses as it relates to the funeral?
Judge, I imagine there are. I haven't received any proof of restitution. Of course, if the family provides that, I can file a motion with the court.
Court will leave restitution open for 30 days. The family can provide any documentation that they need to any of the victim advocates, or they can provide it directly to you. Counsels, once that documentation is received, if there's a dispute as to the amount of restitution that is owing, then the court will schedule a restitution hearing, and then we can address restitution. With regard to your client, is it okay if we have him available via Zoom versus bringing him back here in person
Yeah,
for
that's
any
fine.
restitution hearing?
That's
In
fine.
the DOC?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
Is there a motion from the people?
Yes, Your Honor, the people move to dismiss counts 2 and 4 pursuant to the agreement.
Any objection?
No objection, Judge.
Court will grant the people's motion and dismiss counts 2 and 4. Mr. Southall, you may file an application for leave to appeal your conviction and sentence. If you choose to do so, you must do so within 42 days. If you cannot afford an attorney, the court will appoint an attorney and furnish the attorney with portions of the transcript and record necessary to handle your appeal. That request must also be made within 42 days. Counselors, do you acknowledge that the court has given your client his appellate rights on the record?
So acknowledged.
And he's been provided a form. Is he executing that for the record?
Yes, Judge.
Are there any other matters the court needs to address at this time as it relates to sentencing?
No, Your Honor.
From defense?
None on behalf of defense. Thank you.
Thank you. We're adjourned. Those members of the public that remain in the courtroom, please follow the directions of the deputies. Are you gonna have the victim's family leave first?
Judge, would we be able to have them escorted through the back the same way they came in?
I don't know. You have to talk to the deputies. This is their shop. I mean, I kept them away from their posts for a
Understood, Your Honor.
period of time.
So